Welcome to the Devil's Podcast. I'm HeYamin.
I'm Andromeda.
And this is our second episode. This is episode 2.
Yep.
Which will have a title after it's been uploaded.
We actually decided it was good enough to keep doing episodes.
Yeah, we enjoyed the first one so much that we're doing a second one.
Yep. Yeah.
And actually today's topic comes from a conversation we had in the car. Like the day after we recorded the first episode.
Yeah.
And we were going to talk about currents, not just in a draconian sense, but in a sense of deities we work with and overall energies. And it came up because we were talking about Santa Morte.
So I can't remember.
You don't remember? Oh, it's fine. I remember.
My mind is blank.
Yeah, no, it's perfectly fine. I am wearing the backpack and I'm carrying us through this. No, so like what happened was we were talking about in the car, we were driving around, we were doing a bunch of stuff that day. And we were talking about, I think we had someone with us too. I don't remember. I think we had one of the kids. But we were driving around and we were talking about currents, and I was explaining a bunch of stuff, probably ranting about being on a tangent about things. And we were talking about, and you brought up, it was something in relation to Santa Morte and how your deities function with the hearth of the home.
Yes,
you remember
because it wasn't specifically Santa Muerte. It was that the deities I work with all serve specific functions. Like if I want to work on something, or if they want me to work on something, I go to them. And the Bast is kind of like, she's a real one because she's been there since the beginning. Actually, when I was 12, she was the first deity I ever learned about, other than, God. And she showed up for me, even though I believed I could not worship false idols and such, so on and so forth. And she stuck around for years and years, and how, she, even though my other deities, like Santa Muerte, is very much forefront in my life, she's like the head of the pantheon, basically, almost. The Bast is always there because she reminds me that I'm important, even though I'm fighting. All of my goddesses are dark goddesses. I work with a lot of the shadow realm,
Underworld.
The Morrigan. The Morrigan was the first goddess I ever started working with. But Bast, she's not really a dark goddess. She is actually about the hearth, the home. She's like the heart of the home. She protects mothers. She's very maternal. And she provides a safe space. There's very much a shadow aspect to her, but it's like a safe and welcoming space. And so she has never really left me, because I need to remember that it's important to take care of myself.
Mm-hmm. When there is an underworld dark goddess aspect of Bast. If you look at the Bastet, who has been killed by Sekhmet and then goes into the underworld.
Yes.
And then she returns, however the story goes. But there is a large connection to underworld with all the deities you work
Every
with.
single one.
Well, and we were talking about currents in this specific conversation, and that came up, and I was talking about how, when we work with deities, we are connected. When we work with any beings, any spirits, anything, we're connecting to these currents of energy that are growing our ability to take on more energy. And it's not like responsibility necessarily, even though it's a responsibility to have these um, have these currents going through us. And we were talking about Santa Morte specifically because we were talking about death currents, and not just death currents, but like how she has a vast current of energy. Like she has it goes into where she has love, and you can work with her for romance and sexuality. Like there's all these, like it's like with like if you say a goetic being, one of my mentors always talks about goetic beings, and I've seen this too, that you don't need to work with all 72 of the goetia. They're all spirits, and they all can do everything, each single one, but they have a different way of doing it, but they can do everything. Like anything you need, one of those spirits can do everything. But it's about finding where the current for you is a positive change in yourself, not just like oh, I'm going to invoke Bune and get rich, or I'm going to invoke Asmodeus and all my enemies are going to die. It's not like that. They're eroding within us as we sit and work with these energies, whether in meditation, like I do in a draconian sense, or you're doing it and this is for any deity. You could do this with Santa Morte, you could do it any deity. You're invoking these currents of energy that are removing the obstacles within your ego. And I was telling Mark about this because in my Klipothic work, not to go on another tangent, but in my Klipothic work and Sephirothic work, I've been doing a lot of this, and my draconian in a draconian aspect, of course. That's my modality. That's my favorite way to work. Is that meditation and that magic. So, anyways, when I invoke these things, I'm clearing out what Mark says is like the Klipothic shells, or you're working through these dark hidden aspects, the shadow work of the self. But it's not just that. He was saying there's the Ruach, which is the ego, the Nefesh, which is the bestial soul, and then the Neshama, which is the eternal soul. And when you're doing this work with any of these beings, it doesn't matter. These are just the Kabbalistic explanation, the Jewish mystic explanation of how this works. It's becoming translucent, so that you can then see through from the bestial soul into the eternal soul.
Yeah.
And that's what and it's not just like, oh, this is what you're doing when you do Sephirothic or Klipothic work or what have you. You're doing this with any demon, angel, whatever you want to call them, daemon, deity, even humans. Like you could work with human energy. You could work with the energy of a spirit of an animal. You could do this with anything. It's all currents of energy. And the currents of energy, I think this is what we were talking about too, is that they permeate all space and time. So that you're calling upon this energy to come into you and move through you through any space and time.
Yeah. And I mean, it's funny that you talk about like working with humans, because someone that I love, I've followed her since, my inception into witchhood, is Kelly Ann Maddox. And she talks about how she works with the energies of David Bowie and Frida Kahlo, and how she works with these different energies when she's working on different aspects of life, because if she invokes that energy of what their life was, it aids her in her practice and in her work.
That makes sense. And it's true, like with when you're working with like a human energy, like someone who has achieved greatness, and it's not just like working with necromancy like the dead. You're working with the spirit, the current of energy that a person was creating in their life, and you're connecting to that. It's like how else does something become God? And it's not like they become God. They're God. It's like they've connected to this source, and David Bowie was a Kabbalist, anyways. But you connect to this source of godhood, like the eternal everything, and you're pulling information down. You're pulling energy down, and it's not like, oh, this is just one person could, like just Jesus could do it, or just whatever. Everybody has that capability. Everybody has that ability. But when we can connect to other humans who have done this, like when I was brought into Circle of the Dark Mother as a initiate and then ordained, that was a powerful initiation and ordaining. That changed the course of where I was headed at that time.
Yeah.
And that's a human interaction, and it's humans energy, human people, and you're connecting to the source of those beings, which is, of course, coming from a higher place at some point. But I'm connected to this web of people that it's like I'm in this circle, like I'm in this. And it was something that had great effect, and it was a path I was on for a while with Lilith. But it's like, that culmination was like, oh shit, like, here I am.
Yeah, something I do is my phone background. A lot of times I'll use art created by someone, and I'll tap into the energy of that piece, and I work with that for whether it be a couple days, months, weeks, however long. I work with that, and I've actually had some very intense experiences just by having that background to remind me every time I get on my phone, here's this piece of art that reminds me of something, or this picture. Like, I actually do work with that energy of Frida Kahlo, because she was a real one.
Yeah.
And her life was very profound, deeply sad, but just she did some very profound work throughout her life. And so having that type of stuff as my phone background helps me to work through specific areas and trouble spots in my life.
Well, I mean, and you're taking on the masks, like these, like as Ram Dass said, we are God in drag. We have access to everything. We have access internally when we go within. We have access to all these other beings. We have this access to the connection between godhood and man, or bestial even. Mm-hmm. And it's like when we look at, like, say a deity, and they have all these different personifications and personas that people experience. Those are the masks of them through our ego. Mm-hmm. Through our lens is dirty, and they're coming through. But we're also able to put on those masks and allow ourselves to experience, reality through them. And I think people don't realize it as much as, I mean, I've never heard people talk about it to that extent. But I know that I personally have done this, in my abyssal work, and I've done it in a lot of ways in my work with Lilith, specifically in the Draconians, and some of the other beings that I work with. And it's like, oh, okay, like I understand, like, like where I'm at with, like who I am. And it's like, I've said this before, but where do I end and you begin? Mm-hmm. It's not like, well, there's no separateness.
Yeah.
And we're able to connect.
There is a belief that we all come from one single source, that we started out as a single just energy current, basically. Mm-hmm. And it had no experiences, and it wanted to create experiences, and so it split itself. And in reality, we are living a million trillion different dreams from this one source, and in the end we go back to it. I mean, there's people who have talked about near-death experiences where they have talked to guides and other beings and such like, and they say, like, oh, we all cycle through all of these lives, and in the end we go to the light. And these people always ask, well, what's in the light? And they're like, nobody knows, because once you go back, that's the final time.
Yeah.
So,
which is interesting, because I mean, that's Kabbalist in nature. I don't know if what you're talking about is from Kabbalists, but the interesting thing with that is I was reading a book a while ago, that Kabbalistic Concepts by William G. Gray, and it's a really good book. Highly suggested if you like thought form changes. So I was reading that book, and he talks about the fact that they couldn't. I think it was that book. Maybe I'm misremembering, but it's a good book either way. But there's this explanation of they couldn't create anything other than, like, there was nothing to add, so you couldn't add anything more to what was already there in the tree of life. There was you. It was strictly said there's nothing you can add to it. So when they found out there was something beyond the tree of life, they added nothing. So they added there's the Ein Sof Air, the Ein Sof, and the Ein. And the Ein is no thing. There's the limitless light. There's the eternity, and then there's nothing. No thing.
Yeah.
I think I don't remember what order it goes in, of course, because I'm spacing it. But they said, oh, we can't add anything. We can add nothing to it.
We can add nothing.
So they added nothing. There was nothing more to be added.
It's not that you can't add anything. It's that you can add nothing.
Yeah. And it's just it's one of those things where it's like, also with like putting rules on things, like in that aspect, it's like the idea of, so one person has a realization because they're connected to an energy, and they're like, oh, this is the divine way. Mm-hmm. This is the only thing, and then other people come along, they're like, no, we have to find a loophole because this is not the only thing. And it's like, that's Gnostic in nature. I know we talked about Gnosticism last time, but it's Gnostic in nature because it's like, there's always going to be a differentiation because every person is looking at deity through their own personal lens. And they're having this experience, this divine experience of the light coming through them, or what have you, whatever it is. And they're experiencing it in the way that they need to for their own personal growth, whether it's left-hand path, right-hand path, middle pillar, who knows? It's something omnidirectional that has nothing to do with it. And when we're looking at these experiences that people are like, I had this experience, and you look at David Bowie, for instance, and you look, like we were talking about, these famous people who are mystics and esotericists and the occultists, and they're like, they've reached this point, but more often than not, they're not going to be like, I have the only way. If they tell you, the people that do, you should run far from them, but it's just one of those things where it's like, I think that people usually get to a point where they understand how human they are, and either they fight that by trying to look more than human, or they dive into it and go less than human, like not less than human, but like subhuman trash, as they said. But I mean, like they're like, oh, I have look at how imperfect I am. I'm doing drugs. I'm doing all this stuff. I'm so imperfect, and they think of, oh, that's what human is, and then it's like the people that are far above are like, well, humans, real humans are this way, and then the people in the middle are like, humans are, all of this. Mm-hmm. We're all of this, and we can be as balanced as we want or unbalanced.
Yeah.
You don't have anything to add to? Okay. Well, I'm just going off like the masks of deity and the experiences of the currents, and we can talk more about like currential work. I just came up with a new word. Like if we're looking at like the idea of what we're doing with currents, like you channel beings. I do too, but you channel beings, and you have that ability, and you're not just channeling a current. It's almost like you're pulling in a current to pull in the being that is coming in. I know, because I when we first started doing it, I was there,
Yeah.
So it's like you're pulling in this energy to pull in this being, and then you have that mask of deity that you're working with, which is could be a person, could be a spirit, could be an entity. you never know. You know, that's what mediumship is. You don't.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I can't channel. I know some people are able to channel, the spirits of the deceased.
Mm.
I'm not able to do that. Mine runs more towards like angelic or demonic beings and deity, and ultra extraterrestrial, ultra terrestrial,
Yeah.
stuff like that. So I think it really is the type of energy I align with, the energy current that I align.
The currents and the
Like,
potentiality.
I guess different types of horses.
Yeah.
Because it is called spirit riding, where you become the horse and the spirit rides you, and just like different people are able to ride different horses, like ponies for like children, and you wouldn't want to have a small young teenage child on a giant I can't remember the name of the horse, but it is really
like a Mustang or
well, Mustangs aren't huge.
Oh, they aren't. I don't know anything about horses.
Well, yeah, I mean I've seen some pretty massive horses, but I forget the names of the horses. It's been a long time. Clydesdale, yeah.
That's what it is, yeah.
But they can be gentle though, so you never know. But I think it's I guess I'm comparing myself to a breed of horse.
Yeah. Don't Clydesdale have like the hairy feet?
Yeah, they have the long fur on their hooves.
Yeah.
And
hairy
some of them
feet.
can have very large...
They're hobbits. They're like giant hobbits with 4 legs.
the hobbits of horses.
Hobbit horses. Well, ponies would technically be hobbits. So. They've been breeding hobbits. They've been breeding the hobbits with the they've been taking the DNA of the hobbits and putting it into the horses. Oh. And they're changing the horse DNA structures with
that would be unethical.
The hobbits. It would be unethical.
Yeah.
The breeding would be unethical, but the changing of their DNA would definitely be like that would like if you're exchanging their DNA.
You're just going off on a side tangent again.
Yeah. As per usual.
Yeah.
So we're gonna take a break from the podcast just for a second to talk about our Etsy's. So we both have Etsy.
Yes.
And I do Lilith readings. I have some books for sale. My book for sale, Not Your Cult's Energy Work. Physical copies that are shipped from me. They've also been sitting on an altar for a long time. So if you're interested in that, I've got PDF forms of the ALO ritual, which is a ritual that's kind of like the LVX, but for Lilith and Samael. And that it's a manual for that. I've also got a manual for something else. I think it's the aura cleansing that I came up with, which is also done like a Golden Dawn ritual, but different. I've got that stuff up there. I've also got mentoring on my website. If you're interested, HeYaminNeshama.com. I'm doing mentoring, paid mentoring sessions, not related to Circle of the Dark Mother, which those are free, Circle of the Dark Mother. But the paid mentoring is $150 for 60 to 120 minutes. And if it doesn't last, if we have to end it soon, then we'll do 60 minutes or a little bit more. But if it goes to 120 minutes, like 2 hours, it won't be charged. You won't be charged more. It's going to be a static payment. So just saying all that stuff. That's what I have to offer. And then Andromeda has stuff.
Yes. Right now I have a couple of malas up, and my Etsy page is called Moon's Whimsy, but the malas are not your typical malas. They have larger beads separating smaller sections. So there's like 6, 9, 18, 21. It depends on the energy of the mala that I was working with at the time. And so it's always sectioned off into 4 sections, and then based on how the energy feels, I go about creating 3 smaller sections, and then the excess beads go into a larger section. And eventually I hope to have some sewing projects up, but that we'll see how that goes. And I also I create junk journals from time to time, so maybe you'll happen across a junk journal sometime when you come on my Etsy page.
And we have links to everything in our bio of the YouTube page, and also in the space below. So if you want to access any of that stuff, those are the places to find it. There's more to come, so hope you check it out and hope you enjoy what you find. And yeah.
Yep. I think that covers it.
Yep. We're back to the show. We have returned.
Yes.
From the abyss.
Yes.
We slipped into the abyss and now we've returned.
Yeah.
And then after this, I'm going to edit it, and then I'm going to go back into the abyss in my meditation.
I'm just going to play video games.
Yeah, you're going to play video games. That's fine by me.
Yes.
So we were talking about horses, and I was starting to go on a tangent about experiential knowledge, and we cut it there. So let's talk about something else.
Okay.
With the currents of energy, you were off recording. You were wanting to talk about something.
Yes.
So I think we should talk about it.
Okay.
It
feels a little awkward.
The
and
stage is
now.
yours. It's all yours.
So yeah. So the title of our previous podcast was "Laid Up, Sick, Can't Work, Can't Go to Class. Why Not Start a Podcast?" And that is because I recently discovered that I most likely have POTS. This has been a long-standing issue, actually, but when I first started going to doctors way back in the day, POTS was not as well known. So you go in, you have this woman going in saying, like, I can't breathe, feel like I'm breathing, but I'm not sucking in oxygen, I'm having anxiety and sense of doom, and they're like, oh, anxiety, here, like, take this clozapine and sit in this corner for 45 minutes, and then we'll see how you feel. And so over time, I just learned to, push through it. Just let it go. And pretend like it doesn't exist. And recently, it has cropped up in a very big way. And I became so unwell that I was no longer able to even drive. It's definitely hard. I deal with a lot of anger and frustration. I feel useless right now. And there's a lot of fears around it. But that actually, in that process, my spiritual life has really taken precedence. And I really, at first I really felt like this loss of faith of just like, how could my goddesses let me down this way? How could they let me become so sick that I can't even support my family? I don't know, what happens next. And that puts a lot of pressure on HeYamin to provide financially for us. And so a lot of that started coming up in my spiritual work, my spiritual practice. But throughout that loss of faith, I began finding a deeper sense of faith, a profound understanding that it's not about what you can do physically that matters. And there's a lot of unknowns in life. I mean, there could have been some other situation that cropped up that caused other issues in another way, and it could have been far worse. So to have this right now, it actually feels like a blessing, because I was in college and I'm having to do a retroactive medical withdrawal, but we've hit summer break now. And so I get that summer to try to rediscover myself, and I found that I'm actually, I've become very creative. It's almost like it's exploding out of me. Like I, every time I sit down to do something, I'll say I'm going to video game, and then 10 minutes later I'm working on a new project. And I realized that maybe school is not where my life is supposed to go. Maybe it's the energy currents are redirecting me, because it really, for most of my life, I felt like I've been, hitting a brick wall every time I start a career or try a new direction, but I always end up back at, the artistic endeavors. So that's my little thing.
When like it's not like when you look at things like spirituality taking precedence, usually people will fight it and fight it and fight it until their health collapses, and then it's like, oh, like I'm spiritual now. And it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, when we have, and not saying this is you, but I'm saying like when our ego takes precedence over all the things we do, like it's trapped in trauma mode, it's trapped in cycles of repeated abuse of some sort, whether it's drugs or physical abuse or, sexual abuse, whatever it is. When we have these experiences and our mind kind of gets stuck on like, oh, this is how the wheel turns, this is my wheel of fortune and this is how it turns. And then they don't realize that breaking through that egoic limit, releasing those ties we have to those old narratives inside of us, and those perceptions that we have about ourselves and about the world and everything, that allows us to fully be ourselves. And spirituality has a lot to do with that. I know I've changed drastically.
Yeah.
Just in the time we've been together. And I was changing before that too. It felt like there was a long time of stagnancy in my life, but it was really just preparing me for what I was going to experience next. And it's true, it's like I got a reading from Carla Tadeo at the Mystic Fair, Salem Mystic Fair. After I spoke at it, and then I got a reading, and it was really good. And it was like, it was her talking, like the reading was basically telling me like, you had this long-standing cycle, and I was getting that the cycle was repeating before the better, and it was going to be a long cycle that repeated the same thing that was before, but in a positive way, instead of like having that long cycle of struggling mentally and physically and spiritually. Because it started around the time I fell out of being Christian, and I was like, dude, this stuff is bogus. And then I started to become spiritual, and then ad infinitum, the story. But it's one of those, and one of the cards, I love this card. One of the cards was like the Fool, but instead of a man stepping off a cliff, it was a woman trust falling into a pond, and the pond was the universe. And I told Carla, I was like, it's like you're trust falling. It's like I'm trust falling the universe. Mm-hmm. And she's like, that's the most beautiful way I could have heard it. And I was like, I know that there's a lot changing in my life, and there's a lot changing in me. And that's because I've forced myself to take the perspective of, not just the healing path, but like the forced release. It's like, okay, I'm going to move through this. And I think you're going through the same thing. And not like, I'm not like putting words on what your experience is, but what I know of that same type of thing is you're doing it in a healthy, a healing environment. And I didn't have that, but it's like, a healing environment, a place where people care about you, where people are going to take care of you. And having that that because you will not, you have to stop doing some stuff, and you will not stop doing.
Yeah.
So it's like it's nothing bad. It's just like, I want to get up and do this. It's like, just sit down,
Yeah, and
enjoy
then
yourself,
heart
relax.
rate goes bonkers, and I'm like, oh no, I better go lay
Better
down.
do what I told you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because I was a death doula for a long time, and that trust fall into the universe, it really reminds me of what that death process looks like, because it really is, the way I've always described it is that it's like your spirit, your soul is being rebirthed into the universe. And when you have the good death, I suppose you could call it, with the family, the supportive family, and the people who really care about you, it really is, it's a beautiful process. And that's something I think in the West we're so disconnected from. You got your laws and bylaws, and the hospitals try to keep people alive, and we're taught to fear death, but what is it? It's just another piece of the cycle of life. You're rebirthed out into the universe. You become something else, something more. And I know I believe in reincarnation, and a lot of my dreams cycle around that process of like you're passed on, you're waiting, and you have to speak your truth. A lot of times when I've been visited in my dreams, the spirits speak their truth, and then they're released. And then you're rebirthed. You're in this process of being a child, almost a free, I'm forgetting the word, blameless, pure, a being of purity, and then you're waiting to be rebirthed, and then you become someone or something new, whether that is human or tree or plant, animal,
or draconian.
Yeah.
Well, and I think too, people are endorsed to fear. They want you to fear every single thing you can. They want the Democrats to fear the Republicans. They want the Republicans to fear the Democrats, and neither of them know how stupid they look. But it's like, it's not, and not to get political, it's just one of those things. It's like, you can look at every facet of society. You can look at, one artist hating another artist in
West
music.
Coast versus East Coast.
Or West Coast versus East Coast. Or even, this area code versus that area code, this neighbor versus that neighbor. The list goes on, country versus country. It just doesn't fucking matter. It's just a misinterpretation of who the actual enemy is. Because if you don't know the enemy and they say, oh, these are your enemies right here, and you're like, oh, okay, and it's like, it's your enemy telling you that people who could be your friends against your allies, against the true enemy. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that we're put into this state of utter fear. We're pushed this agenda by media and news sources, and even on. I mean, I ended up having to delete social media because I become so depressed just from getting on Facebook for just a few minutes. It was becoming a source of severe anxiety and stress. And YouTube, even, I have to be very careful about being on YouTube, because stuff could pop up and it'd be like, oh, what's this? And then I'm like, oh, 2 minutes in, I'm like, all like, having a panic attack about it.
Yeah, I can't watch much of anything on YouTube. Like, I avoid shorts for the most part, unless it's something funny, and then I'll like click on it, but I won't scroll. I've never been a scroll shorts person, or like scrolling on TikTok. I never enjoyed TikTok, and it's one of those things where it's like when you look at overconsumption of media, like that is, well, that's the new TV, But it's also like, it's just like how they used to say with programs, It's programming you, you know? And if you can take people, not to get conspiracy theorists, but you can literally take people and train them to be a certain way. They're going to go out and train other people to be the same way. And that's how mass media works.
Yeah, and I mean it's interesting because we're more connected than ever. The internet has connected us more than ever, and yet we're more alone than ever.
We're more disconnected.
We're the way that it has been created, the algorithms, the way it sets you up to be disconnected from humanity.
Well, it's like when you look at like, I mean, we can say because we can tangibly see the internet, that and computers and stuff, we can tangibly see like that we're connecting to people in the illusion of that connection. But when you look at like shamans of Brazil or Peru and the Brahmin of India, and like it's like you look at these people who have access to universes. You know, they have access to the Kabbalists. You know, all these people have access to, like, when they reach a certain level where they're working with greater and greater currents of energy, and these energies are growing and they're connecting, and they can see them, they can connect with beings, you know, the shamans of the magicians of the West, you know, that were working with these what they considered archonic energies, which they're not archonic, you know. But when you're looking at these people who are literally talking to gods directly, and they're talking to higher beings, and they're connecting with these energies and these sources, and they're changing themselves. You know, in the Western world, they were making pacts with these intense entities to get what they wanted, and you know, truly, we don't know the extent that they went because the grimoires don't really explain that. But as Richard, you know, says, like these were pocketbooks that were kept alive because of the fact that, you know, they worked. You know, these wouldn't exist if they didn't work.
Yeah.
And we're connecting to energies, not just in Goetia, you know, we're working angelic beings or what have you. We're connecting to currents of energy throughout the universe, you know, throughout the world. There's energies that persist all space and time, and universes upon universes, wheels upon wheels, and we're connecting with these energies, and we're allowing ourselves to erode these senses of self that are not actually true. These programs that we've been forced to believe are reality. And you were talking about that with your sickness and your experience in life, and how you're trying to let go of stuff. And you know, I've been doing the same thing with my work with Lilith and Lucifer, and Bronwyn and the Draconians, and you know, all of the spirits and beings that I work with. You know, the ability to release this part of myself that is so attached to, you know, we could say the power plays of the ego, or we could say the attachments of the pleasures of life, or you know, addictions, and you know, control and power, and we're letting go of like anything that isn't internal sovereignty.
Yeah, I was going to say something and I lost it while I was waiting for you to finish your thought.
I apologize.
That's okay.
I had a place to go and I was getting there.
Yes, you did.
But
that's okay.
So what do you got there today?
I have the Anima Tarot by Anna, I think it's Oginski, and Catherine Astridis. Why are the last names so hard to say?
So difficult.
Yeah.
They're probably Ukrainian.
Yes.
Russian. Siberian.
It sounds Polish. Yeah.
Yeah, Polish.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's
your deck
I was working with today.
What are the cards? What is the just for the idea of, are they Victorian? Are they kind of like anime?
It's anime. It's a little bit risque. There's a lot of boobs and butt. Very stylized drawings and really vibrant colors. That's something that drew me to the deck. Normally I go for, the line drawings and the not quite so risque decks, but this one really, really spoke to me for some reason.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Did you draw some cards?
Yeah, I did. The Ten of Pentacles actually fell out repeatedly, and then the High Priestess. So the Ten of Pentacles is actually about the family and the connections we make throughout life. And it's not necessarily the connection with kin, but the connection with found family and friends. And this card specifically has the traditional parent-child, but it also has the old man with a dog. And so it kind of speaks to the friendship between animal and human. And then with the High Priestess, with this one, it's very Persephone-esque because she has the pomegranates around her head. And she's got a crescent moon at her feet. And she's actually holding a book with the
Tree of Life, the spheric Tree of Life. Well, yes. It could be the Qliphoth too. But
yeah, I was trying to decide whether to call it the Qliphoth or
well, it's just the Sephiroth.
Yeah.
Saphir.
And the High Priestess is actually about connecting to your inner wisdom, your internal hidden self, the divine feminine. And so those two cards really speak to the finding the deep connections with each other as well as with your internal self.
Well, it's also interesting because the pomegranates are the sign of the underworld.
Mm-hmm.
And so she could be holding the Torah or whatever with the Kabbalah on it, the Tree of Life.
Mm-hmm.
And then the pomegranates are the symbol of the Qliphothic Tree of Life.
Yeah.
Even though it's not as a tree, but it is growing off of her head.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought.
And she also, in this tarot, I know some tarot don't have the two, I always forget the names of the two pillars.
Oh, yeah. Mercy and Severity.
Yeah. So she's got the
pillars.
White pillar and the black pillar on either
cool.
side of her.
Yep.
So it's very Kabbalistic deck, actually. When you really get into it, there's a lot of Kabbalistic elements.
I should look at it more often.
Yeah. So,
well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
And we are going to call it there. It was a wonderful episode.
Yeah. Hopefully there was not too much oversharing.
I don't think there was too much oversharing.
Okay.
Yeah. So we are the Double Podcast. Thank you very much for watching the episode. If you stayed to the end, like if you liked it, comment if you got something to say, share it if you'd like, if you think there's other people who'd like it. Yeah. Subscribe if you're really interested in this kind of stuff on YouTube. Ask questions, of course.
Yes.
Yep. And
always be curious.
Always be curious.
Yes.
Always be curious. Curiosity made the cat go invisible and fly through space. So
neon cat.
Neon cat. Yeah. The
as my kids called it, Pop-Tart Kitty.
Pop-Tart
when
Kitty.
They were little. Pop-Tart Kitty. We want to watch the Pop-Tart Kitty.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Okay.
To close, of course, the darkness in me honors and sees the darkness in you. This has been the Doubles Podcast.